When I returned for Thanksgiving, the house was empty, except for my husband's stepfather in his rocking chair. My husband left a note. "Gone on a cruise with my ex-wife. You'll stay here and look after stepdad. He needs you." The old man opened one eye. "Shall we start?" 4 days later, my husband was begging for forgiveness. I'd been looking forward to Thanksgiving for weeks. Michael and I had been married for 3 years, and despite the occasional bumps, I thought we were happy. The drive from the airport felt longer than usual that day. My conference in Chicago had gone well, and I couldn't wait to tell Michael about the promotion they'd offered me. The trees lining our neighborhood had shed most of their leaves, creating that perfect November postcard scene that always made me feel like I was coming home. But something felt off the moment I pulled into our driveway. Michael's car wasn't there. The house looked strangely dark for 4 p.m. on a holiday weekend. I figured maybe he'd gone out for last-minute groceries, though that would have been unusual for my plan-ahead husband. I wrestled my suitcase up the front steps, fumbling with my keys as the cold Boston wind whipped around me. "Michael?" I called out as I pushed open the door. The house was silent. No delicious turkey smells, no football game blaring from the TV, no Michael rushing to greet me. Just silence and shadows. I flipped on the lights and rolled my suitcase into the entryway, my stomach beginning to knot. That's when I noticed a single lamp was on in the living room, casting a dim glow over a figure in the corner. I nearly screamed until I recognized the silhouette. Harry, Michael's stepfather, sitting perfectly still in that ancient rocking chair he always claimed when he visited. He wasn't supposed to be here. He lived in a retirement community in Florida. Michael had mentioned something about Harry staying in a care facility now, his health declining. Yet here he was, rocking slightly, looking at me with those piercing blue eyes that always made me feel like he could read my thoughts. "Where's Michael?" I asked, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. Harry didn't answer immediately. He just reached into his cardigan pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, extending it toward me with a slightly trembling hand. I crossed the room, my legs feeling like they belonged to someone else, and took the note. Michael's handwriting jumped out at me instantly. "Emma, gone on a cruise with Stephanie. Need to figure things out. You'll stay here and look after stepdad. He needs you. Back in a week. Don't call. M. Stephanie, his ex-wife. The woman he'd sworn was ancient history. The woman whose name still made his eyes light up slightly whenever someone mentioned her. And a cruise? With Thanksgiving tomorrow? I read the note again, certain I'd misunderstood. But no, the words remained unchanged, their meaning slicing through me like a cold knife. "Paid left yesterday morning," Harry said finally, his voice gruff but steady. Packed up like he was running from the law. I sank down onto the couch, the note crumpling in my grip. Harry watched me, his weathered face unreadable in the dim light. The silence stretched between us for what felt like hours. Then Harry shifted in his chair, the old wood creaking beneath him. He opened one eye that had been half closed and fixed it on me with surprising clarity. "Shall we start?" he asked, with the faintest hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Start what?" I asked, my voice catching. The note was still clutched in my hand, the paper now damp from my sweaty palm. Harry's question hung in the air between us like some cryptic challenge. "Thanksgiving dinner, of course," Harry replied, pushing himself up from the rocking chair with surprising vigor for a man his age. "I may be old, but I still know how to roast a turkey. Michael thinks I'm helpless. Convenient for him to believe that." He shuffled toward the kitchen, gesturing for me to follow. I stood frozen for a moment, trying to process everything. Michael and Stephanie on a cruise? Michael voluntarily spending time with his supposedly impossible stepfather? Michael abandoning me on Thanksgiving with no warning? The pieces refused to fit together in my mind. "You coming, Emma, or you planning to stand there looking shell-shocked all evening?" Harry called from the kitchen. His bluntness snapped me back to reality. I followed the sound of his voice, finding him already pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. To my surprise, the kitchen was well stocked. I had the grocery service deliver yesterday, Harry explained, noting my confusion. Michael didn't even notice. Too busy packing his swimming trunks, I suppose. There was a bitter edge to his laugh that resonated with my own emerging anger. The next hour passed in awkward silence as we prepared a simplified Thanksgiving meal. Harry was surprisingly capable in the kitchen, directing me with the competence of someone who'd done this many times before. I tried calling Michael twice during food prep. Straight to voicemail both times. No surprise there. He won't answer, Harry said, not looking up from the potatoes he was mashing. Stephanie never did like interruptions on their getaways. The casual way he dropped this information made my stomach turn. How many getaways had there been? We ate dinner at the small kitchen table rather than the formal dining room. I picked at my food while Harry ate with good appetite. The silence between us was broken only by the occasional clink of silverware against plates. So, I finally said, unable to bear the quiet any longer, how long have you known about this? I couldn't bring myself to be more specific. Harry took a long drink of water before answering. That your husband is a selfish boy who never grew up since he was 12. That he's been seeing Stephanie again? About 3 months. The chicken I'd just swallowed seemed to solidify in my throat. 3 months? I managed to whisper. Harry's eyes softened slightly, the first real emotion I'd seen from him. I'm sorry, Emma. I thought you might have suspected. Michael isn't exactly subtle when he's sneaking around. But I hadn't suspected. Not even once. I'd trusted Michael completely. Believed every late night at the office, every business dinner, every guy's weekend. The realization of my own blindness hit me like a physical blow. Harry reached across the table and awkwardly patted my hand. For what it's worth, you're the best thing that ever happened to that boy. His mother would have loved you. Coming from the gruff old man, this statement felt unexpectedly meaningful. After dinner, I retreated to the guest room, unwilling to sleep in the bed I shared with Michael. As I lay staring at the ceiling, I heard Harry moving around downstairs. The familiar creak of the rocking chair, a strangely comforting sound in the quiet house. This wasn't how Thanksgiving was supposed to be. Yet somehow, despite everything, I felt a strange gratitude that I wasn't completely alone with my shattered world. I woke up disoriented, momentarily forgetting where I was until yesterday's reality crashed back. The guest room pillow was damp with tears I didn't remember shedding. The house was quiet, but the smell of coffee drifted upstairs. I found Harry at the kitchen table, newspapers spread out, reading glasses perched on his nose. Morning, he grunted, pushing a mug toward me without looking up. Cream's in the fridge, sugar's where it always is. The coffee was strong but good. I hadn't expected Harry to remember how I took it. Thanks, I murmured, wrapping my hands around the warm ceramic. Why are you really here, Harry? Michael told me you were in a care facility. Harry snorted, folding his newspaper with deliberate precision. That boy's been telling people I'm dying for 2 years now. Makes it easier to explain why he never visits. He looked up, meeting my eyes directly. I came because I knew what he was planning. Thought you shouldn't be alone when you found out. The simple kindness behind his gruff explanation made my throat tighten. We spent the morning in a strange, comfortable silence. Harry reading, me staring out the window at neighbors celebrating the holiday I was supposed to be enjoying. Around noon, Harry announced he was making his famous apple pie and would I like to learn. Michael always said you couldn't cook, I remarked, watching him expertly peel apples in one continuous spiral. Michael says a lot of things, Harry replied dryly. Most of them convenient for Michael. He handed me an apple and a peeler. Like father, like son, I suppose. You're not his father, I said automatically, repeating what Michael had told me countless times. No, Harry agreed, his knife pausing mid-slice. I came into his life when he was 10. His father, real piece of work, that one, had already left. I tried my best with the boy. Loved his mother something fierce. A shadow passed over his face. She deserved better than both of us men in her life. As we worked, Harry shared stories I'd never heard. Michael as a rebellious teenager, the sacrifices his mother had made, Harry's awkward attempts at stepfathering. I found myself laughing despite everything, especially at Harry's impression of teenage Michael's first attempt at shaving. "You know," Harry said as he crimped the pie crust with surprising delicacy, "he did the same thing to his mother. Left her alone one Christmas to go skiing with friends. She'd been sick too. Nothing serious, but enough that she needed help around the house." He shook his head. Pattern was set early. The comment landed like a stone in my stomach. I thought about the times Michael had canceled our plans for emergencies at work, how he'd missed my father's funeral because of an unavoidable business trip. Little moments I'd forgiven or forgotten suddenly aligned into a pattern I couldn't unsee. "When did you stay with her?" I asked quietly as we slid the pie into the oven. "If you saw who he was." Harry's weathered face softened. "Because loving someone isn't always about what's easy. Sometimes it's about seeing them clearly, flaws and all, and staying anyway." He wiped his hands on a dish towel. "The difference is knowing when staying makes you stronger and when it makes you smaller." When the pie was cooling, we sat on the back porch despite the chill. I showed Harry pictures from my conference and for the first time told someone about the promotion I'd been offered, the one that would require relocating to Denver. Michael had been adamantly against even applying. "You should take it," Harry said simply. "You light up just talking about it." By evening, something had shifted between us. I was still heartbroken, still angry, but no longer feeling quite so adrift. Harry, with his blunt honesty and unexpected wisdom, had somehow become an anchor in this storm. As we ate leftover turkey sandwiches and warm apple pie, I realized I was grateful for his presence in a way I would never have imagined possible 24 hours earlier. Saturday morning arrived with steady rain tapping against the windows. I'd slept better, though my dreams were filled with Michael and Stephanie laughing on the deck of a cruise ship. Harry suggested we clean out the attic. "To keep busy," he said, but his eyes held something more purposeful than mere distraction. The attic was stuffed with boxes I'd never explored in our 3 years of marriage. Michael had always discouraged it, claiming it was just old junk from his mother's house. Harry moved through the space with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was looking for, eventually pulling out a dusty leather trunk. "Think it's time you knew the whole story," he said, unlocking it with a small key he produced from his wallet. Inside were photo albums, bundles of letters tied with faded ribbon, and various mementos. Harry handed me a photo album labeled Family 1995200. I opened to images of a younger Harry, a beautiful dark-haired woman who must be Michael's mother, and teenage Michael. They looked happy in the early photos. Vacations, graduations, holidays. But as I flipped through, I noticed Michael appearing increasingly distant, his smile becoming forced. "That's around when Stephanie first came into the picture," Harry explained, pointing to a photo of prom night. "High school sweethearts. She was ambitious, knew exactly what she wanted. Michael was pliable." The way he said the word carried years of observation and disappointment. "Martha, Michael's mother, got sick when he was 19, Harry continued, pulling out a bundle of letters. "Cancer. Fought it for 3 years. These are letters Michael wrote to Stephanie during that time," he hesitated. "I shouldn't have kept them, probably. Found them after Martha died. Michael had left them behind. I knew I shouldn't read someone else's private correspondence, but some magnetic pull drew my hands toward the letters. The early ones were full of complaints about having to come home from college to deal with Mom's illness. Later ones detailed strategies for avoiding care responsibilities, passing them to Harry. The final letter described plans to leave town with Stephanie after graduation, 2 weeks before his mother died. "He didn't come back for the funeral," Harry said quietly, watching my face as I processed this information. "Said he couldn't handle it. Stephanie had landed a job opportunity in Chicago. They left before Martha was even buried." My hands trembled as I set down the letters. "Why are you showing me this?" Harry's eyes met mine directly. "Because history repeats itself when we don't learn from it. Michael and Stephanie divorced 10 years ago because she found someone more useful to her career. Now she's divorced again and called Michael the minute she needed emotional support. And he's running right back, just like always. He pulled out another photo, Michael and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of promise. "You remind me of Martha," Harry said softly. "Strong, but with a blind spot for seeing the best in people who don't deserve it." Something shifted inside me, like tectonic plates rearranging my inner landscape. Memories flashed through my mind. Michael discouraging my career ambitions while pursuing his own. Subtle criticisms designed to create dependence. Friendships he deemed problematic that I'd gradually abandoned. "After Martha died," Harry continued, "I promised myself I'd never again watch someone good be diminished by someone who can't love properly." He reached into the trunk one final time, retrieving a small wooden box. "Martha wanted you to have this. Well, not you specifically, but whoever Michael ended up with, if they were worthy." Inside was a delicate sapphire pendant on a silver chain. It was her grandmother's. "Michael thinks I sold it years ago to cover medical bills." Harry's smile held a mischievous glint. "Martha knew her son better than anyone. Her letter said to give it to the woman who finally sees Michael clearly and finds her strength because of it, not despite it." The weight of the pendant in my palm felt like permission to be angry, to see clearly, to choose differently than Marta had. I looked around at the physical evidence of a pattern I was unwittingly repeating. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Having great time, hope you and Harry aren't too bored. Don't forget his medications." Harry glanced at the message and laughed. "Medications? I take a vitamin D supplement." He shook his head. "Always creating dependencies that don't exist." Rain continued drumming against the roof as Harry and I sat surrounded by the artifacts of Michael's past. Something solidified between us. An alliance. An understanding. "What would Martha do now?" I asked, closing the photo album. "Wrong question," Harry replied. "What will Emma do now?" Sunday dawned crisp and bright, a stark contrast to the previous day's gloom. I woke early, the question Harry had posed echoing in my mind, "What will Emma do now?" For the first time since finding Michael's note, I felt something other than hurt or anger. I felt possibility. Harry was already in the kitchen making pancakes, humming tunelessly. "Sleep okay?" he asked, sliding a plate toward me. I nodded, surprised to realize I had. Something about confronting the truth had cleared space inside me. "I've been thinking," I said between bites. "This house, it's never really felt like mine. Michael picked everything, arranged everything. Maybe it's time to change that." Harry's eyebrows shot up, a slow smile spreading across his weathered face. "What exactly did you have in mind?" By noon, we'd rearranged the living room furniture, moving Michael's sacred leather recliner that no one was allowed to sit in to the garage. I'd always hated that chair. Cold in winter, sticky in summer, and taking up all the prime window space. Harry helped me shift the couch to face the backyard garden instead of the enormous television Michael had insisted was the room's natural focal point. "He's gonna have a conniption," Harry chuckled as we stood back to admire our work. There was something freeing in the simple act of moving furniture, of reclaiming space. After lunch, we tackled the spare bedroom that Michael had designated as off-limits for guests. "My home office," he declared, though he rarely used it. The room held boxes of Michael's college memorabilia, sports trophies, and expensive exercise equipment that functioned primarily as clothing racks. "You know," Harry said, helping me clear space, "this would make a perfect home office for you, especially with that Denver job." He said it casually, but the implication hung between us. A future without Michael. "I haven't decided about Denver," I hedged, though something warm flickered at the thought. Harry just nodded, reaching behind a bookshelf to plug in a lamp I hadn't known was there. "Martha bought this lamp for this room. Michael always kept it unplugged, said it used too much electricity. The warm glow it cast transformed the space." While reorganizing, I found my old contact book, filled with friends' numbers I hadn't called in years, people Michael had subtly discouraged me from seeing. On impulse, I called my college roommate Jen, who lived just 30 minutes away. Our conversation was instantly comfortable, as if no time had passed. Before I knew it, I'd invited her for dinner. "Hope that's okay," I told Harry after hanging up. "I should have asked first." Harry waved away my concern. "It's your house too, isn't it? Invite whoever you want." Such a simple statement, yet it had never felt true before. When Jen arrived, bearing wine and laughter, the house seemed to expand. We cooked together, the three of us creating an impromptu feast. Harry entertained us with stories from his 40 years as a high school music teacher, a detail about his life Michael had never shared. Jen caught me up on mutual friends, opportunities I'd missed, life events I should have been part of. After Jen left with promises to meet again soon, Harry and I sat on the back porch swing. "Michael controls your finances, doesn't he?" he asked quietly. I started to defend the arrangement, how Michael was better with money, but stopped myself. "Yes," I admitted, "I have an allowance account. Everything else is in his name or joint accounts he manages." Harry nodded like he'd expected this. "Tomorrow we're going to the bank. Nothing drastic, but you need your own account, your own credit card. Marcia learned this lesson too late." He patted my hand, just precautionary. That night I slept in the master bedroom for the first time since returning. I changed the sheets, rearranged the pillows, opened windows that Michael always kept closed for security. The room felt different. Mine in a way it had never been before. Monday morning, we did indeed go to the bank. By afternoon, I had my own account with transferred savings, a credit card solely in my name, and digital access to all joint accounts. Small steps that felt enormous. Harry had coached me through it all with the patience of someone who had learned these lessons the hard way. "Next," Harry announced as we left the bank, "we need to talk about your wardrobe." I looked down at my conservative outfit, precisely the professional look Michael had always encouraged. No, Harry clarified, seeing my expression. "I mean, where are those colorful clothes you wear in the old photos? The ones with patterns Martha would have loved." I thought about the boxes of too bright clothes relegated to the basement storage. By evening, my closet was transformed too, filled with colors and patterns that made me smile. The transformation wasn't just physical. With each change, I felt myself remembering who I had been before Michael, before the slow erosion of self that had happened so gradually I hadn't noticed. As we sat eating takeout Chinese food, forbidden in Michael's meticulous kitchen, Harry raised his water glass in a toast. "To Emma, too," he said with a grin. "Martha would be proud." I touched my glass to his, Martha's sapphire pendant cool against my skin. For the first time, I felt ready for Michael's return. Not with dread or anger, but with clarity and a strange, calm strength I hadn't known I possessed. Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting in the newly rearranged living room reviewing the Denver job offer when I heard a car door slam. Harry, dozing in what was now his rocking chair by the window, opened one eye. "Showtime," he murmured. The front door burst open, and there stood Michael, tanned, flustered, and clearly taken aback by the scene that greeted him. His eyes darted from the rearranged furniture to Harry to me, his expression cycling through confusion, irritation, and finally an attempt at contrition. "Emma," he breathed, stepping forward. "Thank God. I've been trying to call." "Phone died," I said simply, setting aside my papers. Didn't seem important to charge it. The calm in my voice surprised even me. Michael's gaze swept the room again, his jaw tightening at the visible changes. What happened here? And why is Harry in my chair? His emphasis on "my" spoke volumes. "Your chair's in the garage," Harry offered helpfully. "More comfortable out there with the lawn equipment. Similar personalities." Michael ignored him, focusing on me with the intense, pleading expression that had always worked before. "Emma, I can explain everything. The cruise. It wasn't what you think. Stephanie needed support after her divorce, and I just felt obligated. Old time's sake." He moved closer, reaching for my hands. "I've been miserable the whole time, thinking about you. I stood, stepping just out of his reach. Interesting, I said, because the Instagram photos Stephanie posted looked pretty joyful to me. His eyes widened. He'd forgotten about social media, apparently. The matching tropical drinks were a nice touch. Michael's face flushed. You don't understand. Actually, I understand perfectly now, I interrupted, fingering Martha's pendant. Michael's eyes caught the movement, recognition dawning. Is that? Where did you get that? He demanded, glancing accusingly at Harry. Your mother wanted her to have it, Harry said, not moving from his chair. Martha was always good at predicting the future. Michael's composure cracked. You had no right. That pendant was supposed to be sold years ago. He turned to me, switching tactics with the skill of long practice. Emma, I made a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. But I came back early, left the cruise the minute I realized what I'd done. Please, we can fix this. There was a time those words would have melted my resolve, when his apparent vulnerability would have awakened my need to nurture, to fix, to forgive. I felt the pull, even now, the familiar urge to smooth things over, to return to comfortable patterns. But something had fundamentally shifted inside me. There's nothing to fix, Michael, I said quietly. This isn't about the cruise, or Stephanie, or even the years of small manipulations. It's about finally seeing clearly. His expression hardened, the mask of contrition slipping. Seeing clearly? 4 days with my bitter old stepfather and suddenly you're what? Enlightened? He gestured dismissively at Harry. He's always hated me, always tried to poison people against me, and you fell for it. Harry remained silent, watching. This was my moment, not his. The Denver job called yesterday, I said, changing tack. I accepted the position. I start in 3 weeks. Michael's face went through a remarkable transformation. Shock, anger, calculation, and finally a desperate attempt at control. Denver? We never discussed, you can't just decide something like that without me. What about my job, my life here? You decided to go on a cruise without me? I pointed out. Seems we're both making independent choices now. Michael stepped back, reassessing. I could almost see him formulating his next strategy. Look, he said, voice softening. I know I hurt you. I know I need to earn back your trust. We can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever it takes. He spread his hands in apparent openness. I love you, Emma. That's never changed. 4 days ago, I might have weakened. But Harry's presence, steady, undemanding, reminded me of what real support felt like. The sapphire at my throat seemed to pulse with Martha's long-ago wisdom. I believe you love me as much as you can, I said gently, but it's not enough anymore. Michael's desperation became palpable. He dropped to one knee, grabbing my hand. Please, Emma, I'm begging you. Don't throw away 3 years over one mistake. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Harry remained motionless in his chair, but I felt his steady presence like a backbone I could borrow, until my own was strong enough. The mistake wasn't the cruise, Michael, I said, gently extracting my hand. It was thinking I needed your permission to be myself. I stepped back, creating space between us that felt both physical and symbolic. I'll be staying at Jen's until I move. You and Harry can sort out his living arrangements. As I walked past Harry to get my pack bag from upstairs, I heard Michael hiss, "What did you do to her?" Harry's response floated up the stairs after me, carrying the wisdom of years. I didn't do anything to her. I just gave her the time and space to remember who she was before you. When I came back downstairs, suitcase in hand, Michael was still standing in the center of the rearranged living room, looking lost in his own home. Our eyes met one final time, and I saw something I'd never witnessed before. Genuine fear. Not of losing me exactly, but of losing the control I had allowed him to have for so long. Goodbye, Michael, I said, meaning it in every sense of the word. As I walked to my car, Harry appeared on the porch, watching me go with a mixture of sadness and pride. "Martha would have walked out 20 years sooner if she'd had your courage," he called. I smiled, touching the sapphire pendant once more. "Thank you, Harry, for everything." In my rearview mirror, I could see Michael on the porch now too, watching me drive away, still not quite believing that his desperate pleas for forgiveness had failed. Some lessons come too late. But mine had arrived just in time.